Watch. Ted Cruz causes Cory Booker to snap with a simple question during hearing on federal judges. Then Cruz finishes him with a blunt reply. That's our top story today. And we have so much more at the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. Welcome back to the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. This is our daily show where we cover the top stories of the past 24 hours. I'm your host today, Sarah Stock, filling in for Elijah Schaefer, and I'm also joined by Michael Hennessy of Snowflake News.
Hey, happy to be here. Glad that we get more time to expose these Democrats and just help share the truth. So looking forward to it. Yeah,
we have a lot to go through today. There was an explosive exchange that erupted on the Senate floor Tuesday afternoon, which ended with arguably the body's biggest narcissist getting humiliated by perhaps the smartest one after one simple question and an epic reply. As reported by Fox News. Watch this story right here. Senator Cruz even calls Booker Spartacus at the end.
Would you indulge me for a moment?
We indulge you every moment.
I appreciate that act of generosity. It's just something you said that I think is actually dangerous and should be addressed, and you're welcome. But when Judge Anderol was killed in New Jersey, the Republican colleagues in the Senate, their outpouring of support, their outpouring of concern, they're willing to work together on a bipartisan bill was extraordinary. It shows the truth of this institution. It's, despite some of the fiery rhetoric that you were sowing, we're really a bipartisan, working bipartisanship.
Dispute the central point I made, which is the Biden Justice Department arrested 0 people, prosecuted 0 people for violating the criminal law. And every Democrat senator on this committee was silent about it. And this was an ongoing pattern for months. And I would note also that the senator from New Jersey clutched his pearls about language threatening judges. And yet I do not recall a single Democrat senator of this committee saying a word when Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatened the safety of the Supreme Court justices by name, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and he said, you have unleashed the whirlwind and you will pay the price. And not a single Democrat senator had a word to say about this. And so their outrage is selective. And I will give my colleague from New Jersey a chance to just answer a simple yes-no question. Should the Biden Justice Department have enforced the criminal law against protesting at a justice's home? Yes or no?
So the rank hypocrisy of Chuck Schumer apologizing the next day and you holding that standard for him and not for your president, who you actually rightfully described when you were running against him in a primary. I would love to run those tapes of how you perfectly talked about the danger of our president and his rhetoric. But now you are failing, in fact, blind to the very things you're accusing Chuck Schumer of. I don't think Donald Trump would know an apology if it hit him in the head. Never has said apologizing. So again, you are very, very, sir, very, very deep into the waters of hypocrisy in your criticisms of Chuck Schumer.
So let the record reflect that Spartacus did not answer the question and did not tell us whether the criminal law should be enforced, because he knows the answer is yes. And he knows that the Biden Department of Justice was being wildly political and partisan in refusing to enforce the law because they disagreed with the Supreme Court justice's rulings.
Well, I'm glad that someone finally called him out for that. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that, Ted Cruz took it to Cory Booker. The one thing about the Democratic Party is there's been multiple times they've called for violence. They always talk about that they're on the moral high ground, they're the party of peace, but we even seen in the summer of love, the rhetoric that they had then, telling people go to the streets, cause destruction. And then even with Kavanaugh, as he mentioned, telling people to surround the home, to protest. So I'm glad Ted Cruz came out, let them know that, we're not going to stand for this. Mm-hmm. This is something that should not be allowed, especially from elected officials. And just made me very happy to see that.
Same. Yeah, definitely need more leaders like Ted Cruz, people that actually finally stick it to the Democrats and call them out for their BS.
Yes, I definitely have to agree.
Our next story, Karoline Leavitt obliterates media spin in a Masterclass White House briefing. We have a few different clips for you today. Karoline Leavitt, I think she does a great job personally. She came out swinging in today's White House briefing, taking direct aim at the Washington Post, defending FEMA's readiness and confirming that Trump's new 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum will take effect at midnight. Here is our clip, number one for pushing back at the press.
We're in hurricane season, and obviously there is great concern every year about the potential for that. Can you speak to how the president is planning to have the level of support, should it be needed, to be as it has been with a reduction in workforce? And is he still comfortable with Administrator Richardson, who had talked, whether joking or not, about not being aware of a hurricane season for this country? What is the president's level of briefings on what may be required? If you could give us kind of an overall update on that.
Sure. Well, of course, we know that we are into hurricane season now, and I know FEMA is taking this seriously, contrary to some of the reporting we have seen based on jokes that were made and leaks from meetings. But Secretary Kristi Noem and the FEMA leadership are all over this. They are committed to ensuring that federal resources and tax dollars are there for Americans in need. And the president continues to review requests for emergency aid and carefully considering them. However, this president has made it clear we're not going to enable states to make bad decisions with federal tax dollars and then have the federal government later have to bail these states out. We want to see states be responsible with their tax dollars to do as much as they possibly can, and then the president will deeply and thoughtfully consider any requests for federal aid that come to his desk. And I think some of the media reporting we've seen on this is frankly sloppy and irresponsible. There are serious people who are taking this issue seriously, starting with the president himself, who, as you know, on his first domestic trip back in office, visited both North Carolina and California, both of which were, of course, hit by natural disasters when he wasn't even president, but he took ownership of that and visited those places and those people immediately.
Is it
Brian?
About hurricane season appropriate, though, now that this is serious business, as you talked about?
It's serious business, Kelly, and I'm not going to engage in such fodder with a question like that.
Kind of like the sassiness of that closing there. But it is good to see, you know, this administration actually paying attention to these important issues with hurricanes, like things that actually affect American lives. We saw with Hurricane Helene, it just felt like FEMA was so underprepared for that. It was like there was no compensation at all. Joe Biden didn't even visit these communities that were completely devastated by Hurricane Helene. I have a brother in North Carolina that was actually helping with the hurricane relief, just volunteering, and there were entire mountain towns that were completely destroyed. A lot of these people aren't wealthy. Their homes were just completely wiped out, and they were homeless, had to start from scratch. Thousands and thousands of people, even more, died. And it felt like our president at the time cared more about what was going on in Ukraine and the Congress was passing bills to send more money to Ukraine, and no one cared about the devastation that happened because of Hurricane Helene. I think that's one of those things that we haven't been talking about very much, but it really was it was just disgusting, in my opinion. So I am happy to see that this administration is actually paying a lot more attention to using FEMA correctly and monitoring that spending, but also making sure that it actually gets to victims of natural disasters in America and that we can actually be prepared for it this time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. You know, first off, it's a breath of fresh air to actually have a press secretary who's not based off DEI. But the previous administration totally let us down. I mean, Trump did take the time to visit the families. He held a press conference with them. He wanted to see any way that he can help, reach all their needs. So this way they were taken care of. And all Kamala Harris did was just do a photo op of her touching down, going for a little walk, and then moving on and leaving everybody in distress. And as far as FEMA goes, I'm really hoping that, they're taking the correct measures to fix everybody inside FEMA, because FEMA had a lot of scandals going on. I mean, it was to the point where if you were a Trump supporter, if you had a Trump sign, they wouldn't even show up to your house. They wouldn't help assist you. Living in Florida, that's one of our biggest fears is we have hurricanes all the time. So I do believe Trump is going to take control of this. I do believe that we'll have a better response system. And I also know that, thank God, the previous administration is out, because all they did was take a lot of the funds and then direct them to illegal immigrants to make sure that they were in homes, that they were living in these luxury hotels, while meanwhile you had people like North Carolina who didn't even have a home, and a lot of them, there was people who were almost like freezing to death outside because they had no place to shelter at. So yeah, I believe Trump will help take control of this. I do think things will get better.
Exactly. And then we have one more clip from Caroline Leavitt responding to questions about what's going on in Israel and Gaza.
forces are firing on Palestinians trying to get aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Up to 20 people, according to the Red Cross, have arrived to the hospital that they've set up with gunshot wounds, have died from them. Is this administration aware of these? And I mean, what is being done to address this situation?
The administration is aware of those reports, and we are currently looking into the veracity of them because, unfortunately, unlike some in the media, we don't take the word of Hamas with total truth. We like to look into it when they speak. Unlike the BBC, who had multiple headlines, they wrote, Israeli tank kills 26, Israeli tank kills 21, Israeli gunfire kills 31, Red Cross says 21 people were killed in an aid incident, and then, oh wait, they had to correct and take down their entire story, saying we reviewed the footage and couldn't find any evidence of anything. Oh. Okay, so we're going to look into reports before we confirm them from this podium or before we take action. And I suggest that journalists who actually care about truth do the same to reduce the amount of misinformation that's going around the globe on this front. John.
Well, I think she makes a fair point here. It does feel so confusing every time we get this news and information about what's going on in Israel, Gaza, or even what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, where it's like, how do we even know what information we're getting is true or not? There's so much conflicting information. I don't know if you remember last year when there were videos in Ukraine and we found out they're actually like all over social media, and then we find out it's actually just videos cut from a video game from years ago, and it's not even real and everyone is believing it. And then, of course, we have the BBC incorrectly reporting on what's going on with Israel and Gaza, 4 different stories, and then they just say, oops, sorry, none of that was actually real. It does kind of bring into question some journalistic integrity.
Yeah, unfortunately, the mainstream media, we've lost all hope in our country, let alone in foreign countries. So it's hard when we gather this information to be able to tell what is true and what is not. And I do believe there's a lot of people in the background who want to push and pull on the heartstrings of Americans so that they can lead them in either direction, for a war, against a war. So, yeah, I mean, this is something journalists have to take their time. Just because you see a video and you get excited, or just because you read one article and you don't dive deep into it, that doesn't mean go out and post it. Take the time, because when the credibility should be there, and wanting to actually share the truth and not just share clickbait should be a big thing as well.
Exactly. And I think when it comes to, especially with Israel and Gaza, it's weird because, we'll be told this is the death toll of Palestinians. And then we'll be told, oh, well, those are the numbers from Hamas. That's essentially what Karoline Leavitt was saying. How do we trust Hamas? But then we also have numbers from the Red Cross as well. Yeah. We have numbers from the UN, these outside sources, but then we're kind of told not to trust those either. And then we're only told you should trust the numbers from the Israeli government. It's like, well, it's not like that's necessarily an unbiased source either. So it's kind of hard to even know what even is an unbiased source when it comes to war, right? How do we know what to believe?
Yeah, that's the tough part, is to actually being able to know exactly what is true and what is not. So that's why we can't go ahead and just jump the gun, just put it out there just to put it out there. I know Gateway Pundit stances, they do stand with Israel. They want to make sure that Israel is protected. Me personally, I am very hesitant when it comes to any kind of war. I'm not a person for war at all. I believe I always hope for peace, but I do know people have to defend themselves on either side. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully we can start getting some real journalists. I know thank God we have people like the Gateway Pundit who are always there to go ahead and actually put out the truth and, facts over feelings.
Exactly. Quickly, I want to talk to you guys about Van Man. I recently just came across this company because of our friend Mike. It's this awesome brand. It's free of fluoride and toxic chemicals, completely rejecting Big Pharma, and focuses on more holistic and natural sources for their products, like their tallow and honey balm right here. It beats any moisturizer that I've personally ever used. Lasts forever. We've had this in the office for forever now. We're constantly using it, and it's still not gone. If you guys have any issues with dry skin, sometimes I do. I don't want to use these other companies' products. They're toxic. You're worried, like, is this going to affect my future fertility? Is this going to make my skin break out? None of that happens with Van Man's tallow and honey balm. It also uses essential oils, so it smells great. Smell that, Michael. Try it.
Actually does smell really good. Yeah, and the bottle is from when I was talking to Elijah. He said it's actually been here for a year.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Not only are you getting,
even though we don't use it.
So not only are you getting a healthy product, something that's not full of chemicals, you actually have something that's good for you, and it lasts a long time.
Exactly. So if you guys want to get your own Van Man, please head over to vanman.shop/offensive. and use the promo code Elijah10. So again, go to vanman.shop/Elijah, use the promo code Elijah, that's ELIJAH, to get 10% off. And once again, thank you to Van Man for sponsoring the show. Now we're going to hop into the next story. Does he want to get them killed? House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries vows to unmask every single ICE agent. I personally think this is just absolutely crazy. Of course, ICE agents' lives are already in danger by simple virtue of doing the job. They wear masks because unhinged leftists have threatened to kill not only them, but their families as well. I think it makes sense that they would want to remain anonymous. This comment from Jeffries is insulting to the men and women of ICE, not to mention stupid, insensitive, and flat out dangerous. Watch this video here of Hakeem Jeffries calling for their unmasking.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified. That in fact is the law. And we're going to make sure that the American people have the transparency necessary to hold people accountable when they're folks who cross the line here in America. That's what's going to happen.
Well, in my opinion, this is really stupid and honestly just like so insensitive to all these ICE agents they're already risking their lives out there. And now he wants to basically allow their faces to be doxxed. You know how many I remember seeing all these TikTok videos just from a few months ago. There's these crazy Antifa members saying, all these code words on TikTok, encouraging people to kill ICE agents.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying, in my opinion. I mean, these are just people trying to serve the country. There's a lot of good people just trying to do their jobs, and their lives are already being threatened. And now the Democratic Party is wanting to threaten them even further.
Yeah, it's very terrible, but it's not surprising at all, especially from someone like Dollar Store Obama there, Jeffries. The Democrats have this thing where they want to just go ahead and protect these illegal immigrants, give their, loyalty to them hand over hand. And it's getting to the point where it's crazy. I mean, these poor ICE agents, they go out to defend the American people, to make sure our streets are safe, to take care of us, to go ahead, and what we voted for is for a safer country. So they put themselves out on the line. And what do we have? We have an elected official who wants to go ahead and put them at risk, put their family at risk. And this is something we can't stand for. People like this, honestly, I feel like they should face court systems, and it's not right.
Completely agree. Our next story, I thought this one was pretty shocking. Former CIA Chief Mike Pompeo speaks at Odessa conference one day before Ukrainian surprise attack on Russian bombers, demands Crimea be designated Ukrainian territory, calls for complete victory over Russia, includes eerie prediction of upcoming events. This is by Jim Hoft. Watch this video right here and let me know what you think.
There's no walking away from this for the United States, right? It's not the case that you can say, Godspeed, you're on your own. This will continue to chase all of us who believe in basic human dignity, property rights, all the things, all the indicia of sovereign nationhood. I think that will ultimately come to prevail. I regret, right? I regret that there was not more done in 2014. That there was not more done in 2022, and that deterrence was lost. And now the challenge is putting it back to a place. I mean, I was adjacent to the Minsk conversations, right? People forget, we're going back to the negotiating table. Well, we've been at the negotiating table an awful lot, and there was no hammer. And I get it. It was at a different time. There was fighting on the line of control, but not the massive aggression that transpired in February 22. But the issues I'll bet if you went and looked at the debate issue papers from the Minsk conversations, they would look almost identical to the same conversations that were taking place today. And so that must remind us all that when Vladimir Putin lays down his weapons for a moment, you can't go back to Russian gas. When Vladimir Putin lays down his weapons for a moment, they can't be life as it once was. It must be with the deep recognition that this could easily happen again. It may not be in Ukraine next time. It may be on the northern flank. It could be Russians taking action somewhere else in the world, right? They still have troops on the ground in Syria. The Russians are in Venezuela. This is a global challenge presented by a raunchous power who truly believes that the way of the world in the West is not something they want to permit to exist.
Well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, you have people like Mike Pompeo, you have people like Lindsey Graham, and many others that all they want to do is they just want to force us into endless wars. And I mean, that's a perfect example there. Even Lindsey Graham visited Ukraine right before they went and did an airstrike on the airfield in Russia. So this is just more of the swamp that we have in our country. This is more of what Donald Trump wants to drain, because these types of characters, all they're going to do is go ahead and put us in endless wars. And I always say, when you have people like this, make sure to follow the money, because most of the time you're going to see that they're getting paid somehow from all of this. I even seen that, Lindsey Graham was getting, I think it was something like they spent up to $400,000 when he was in Ukraine on hotels and stays. So money's being swapped around, just like in the previous administration, 10% for the big guy. Stuff like this we can't stand for.
100%. Jim Hoft writes, Pompeo's speech was actually quite terrifying. The timing of the speech is also suspect, since Ukraine unleashed a historic drone attack deep inside Russia the following day. Ukrainians' Western allies used drones to blow apart Russian bombers on a runway, bombers that are capable of carrying nuclear loads. What do you think, Michael? I mean, I think maybe it could be a little bit of a stretch to suggest that Mike Pompeo knew that was going to happen, but I mean, I don't know. Is it really?
I wouldn't be surprised, just like I wouldn't be surprised that Lindsey Graham knew as well. I can't say for sure. Obviously, I don't have everything in front of me, but these are the same characters, that are always pushing for endless wars. So for this to happen immediately after, basically what's happening is Ukraine and all the war hawks that we have in Washington, D.C., what they want to do is they want to force us into this war. They know Trump is taking the time to go ahead and try to de-escalate the situation, just like he's trying to de-escalate the situation in Iran. But what you have is you have people like this that they want the war. They want it to continue. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, pretty terrifying. Pretty much just threatening Russia's sovereignty from the United States, saying even if Russia stopped attacking Ukraine, we still need to go after them. It's like, honestly, I don't really want to be involved in that personally. I think I'm okay. Anyways, we are witnessing a generational decline in men's testosterone levels due to lifestyle choices, diet, and exposure to environmental toxins. This decline can result in persistent fatigue, diminished strength, reduced libido, mood swings, and an overall loss of vitality, keeping you from feeling like your best self. Take control of your vitality with Man's Edge from Neutronics Labs, the natural solution to support healthy testosterone levels. Man's Edge is more than just a standard booster. It combines powerful ingredients like fenugreek, IGF-1, NO2, and more to help you feel like your best self. Studies show that fenugreek increases testosterone levels by up to 46%. Plus, unlike traditional powders and pills, Man's Edge offers up to 98% absorption, ensuring you receive the full benefits of these clinically proven ingredients. Even Frank Stallone has made it part of his daily routine to stay at the top of his game. Join Frank Stallone and thousands of men rediscovering their vitality daily with Man's Edge. Sign up for our auto-ship program today and save 50% on all your orders. Reclaim your lost youth and energy. Visit the link below now or go to tboostnow.com. Use code Elijah, that's ELIJAH, to save an additional 10% on your first order. Now for our very last story of today, some Pride Month shenanigans. Walmart takes it on the chin as Pride Apparel backfires big time. They just never really learn. There are a few things more eye-roll inducing in this world than general corporate response to June's Pride, quote-unquote, Pride Month celebrations. From sports teams to YouTube children's channels, everyone seems to want a piece of this pride in all of its rainbow vomit. Major corporations are obviously not immune to this drivel, heck, even when it's not a month celebrating sin, and shopping conglomerate Walmart is no exception. Watch this hilarious video that blew up on TikTok shared by Colin Rugg.
Not even gonna lie to y'all, Walmart really making me not even want to be gay no more. We could just go ahead and skip Pride Month because, not even gonna lie to y'all, Walmart really
I thought this was hilarious. Even the lesbians are kind of over it at this point because it's just so cringy. The endless pandering to the rainbow mafia.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the rest of the country's over it as well. I mean, I know a lot of major corporations have kind of pulled it back this year. They're not changing their logos. They're not following the agenda. A lot of times with these corporations too, we think it's just Walmart who's influencing it, but a lot of times it actually comes down to people like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. What they do is, since they are tied into the companies, they make kind of a report card. So you're forced to either put out the propaganda that they want, or they're going to help crash your company. So I'm glad other companies are pulling away. We're all tired of the indoctrination, all this being shoved down people's throat, being shoved down the kids' throats. It's just not right. So I'm hoping more companies stand up to it. I know Target's gotten backlash many times in the past. I heard they're trying to pull back as well. They put out an American Pride section this year. So I'd like to see a lot more American Pride instead of all this kind of rainbow vomit, as you said.
100%. 4th of July is coming up, so why not just put out some red, white, and blue merch instead of rainbow, disgusting, pro-gay and trans merch. Anyways, if you like that story or any of the stories we covered today, you can read the full stories and many more on thegatewaypundit.com. You can also get this incredible mug here, which we like to drink our coffee out of at the office. If you liked today's episode, please hit the follow button, like this video, everything like that. My name's Sarah Stock, and you can follow me on X or on Instagram at Sarah C. Stock. You can also subscribe to my personal YouTube channel. It's called Sarah Stock. Michael, where can people find you?
I'd love for you to check me out. I'm on Instagram as well as X. It's under at snowflake_news. I just put out groundbreaking stories, try to keep you in the know, and I'd love for you to come check out the page.
Exactly. Well, hope everyone loved the show today. This was the Gateway Pundits Week in Review.